Good morning, dear students. Let us move on to our next session, that is spectroscopy 2, our next module, second module, spectroscopy 2. And also there you have to deal with two types of spectroscopy, and one is Raman spectrum and the second one is NMR spectroscopy. Okay. So the first one you have to study is Raman spectrum, and the second one, that is NMR spectrum. So I will be taking it as two videos. Okay. So today I will be taking the first part, that is Raman spectroscopy, and in another video I will explain about NMR spectrum. Okay. So let us see what is Raman spectroscopy. So before that you have to know about scattering of light. See, up to this, that is, you have studied this rotational spectrum as well as vibrational spectroscopy, isn't it? And in all these cases, in these rotational and vibrational spectroscopy, we are dealing with absorption or emission of radiations, isn't it? Absorption or emission of light radiations, isn't it? But we know that when light falls on a particular substance, when light is falling on a particular substance, what happens is that some of the light will be absorbed, isn't it? Some of the light will be absorbed and some of the light will be emitted and some of the light will be transmitted, or some of the light will be scattered, isn't it? So all these processes will be going on while we are passing an electromagnetic radiation, or while we are passing light through matter. Okay, there will be absorption, emission or transmission of these radiations. So far we have discussed about the absorbed radiations as well as the emitted radiations, isn't it? We have discussed absorbed radiation as well as the emitted radiation. There we have discussed IR spectrum, UV spectrum, then also IR spectrum, then not UV, IR spectrum, then this microwave spectrum, and then also electronic spectrum we have discussed, isn't it? So here one part will be scattered, isn't it? So here this Raman spectroscopy deals with the scattering of light, that is those part of the light which gets scattered, that we are discussing here in Raman spectroscopy. Or Raman spectrum or Raman spectroscopy will be dealing with the scattered light radiations. Okay. Raman spectroscopy will be dealing with the scattered light radiations. And also, see, while scattering occurs, we can say that the scattered radiation sometimes, let the scattered radiation, let it have the frequency nu. Okay, so we can represent it as nu s. Let nu s be the frequency of the scattered radiation. Nu s be the frequency of the scattered radiation, and nu I, let nu I be the frequency of the incident radiation. Okay, nu s is the frequency of the scattered radiation while nu I is the frequency of the incident radiation. Suppose while scattering occurs, see, some of the light radiations will be having the same frequency, or the incident the frequency of the incident radiation, it will be the same as the frequency of the scattered radiation. See, let it be nu I. This is the incident radiation. Let the frequency, let it be nu I, and after it gets scattered, let the frequency, let it be nu s. So if the frequency of the incident radiation, it is equal to the frequency of the scattered radiation, that is nu I is equal to nu s, we can say that it is called as coherent scattering. COHERENT. It is called as coherent scattering or Rayleigh scattering. Coherent scattering or Rayleigh scattering. So what is the condition for coherent scattering or Rayleigh scattering? When the frequency of the incident radiation is equal to the frequency of the scattered radiation, it is called as coherent scattering or Rayleigh scattering. Okay. Then two other conditions are also there. See, suppose some of the scattered radiation will have a frequency less than that of the incident radiations. Okay, that is one condition. And the second condition, some of the scattered radiation will have a frequency greater than the incident radiation. Okay, so two conditions. when the scattered radiations will be having lesser frequency than the incident radiation, and when the scattered radiations will be having greater frequency than the incident radiations. Okay, so these two conditions, these corresponds to the Raman lines. Okay, these two conditions, they will be resulting in Raman lines. That is, in the first case, that is nu s is less than nu I. That means the scattered radiation will have a lower frequency than the incident radiation. Then that means the lines with lower frequency, they are called as the Stokes lines. Lines with lower frequency, they are called as the Stokes lines. And the lines with higher frequency, they are called as anti-Stokes lines. So lines with lower frequency, it is called as Stokes lines, and the lines with higher frequency, it is called as anti-Stokes lines. So Stokes lines means corresponds to lower frequency lines. Anti-Stokes means corresponds to higher frequency lines. Okay. And also these two lines, the Stokes lines and anti-Stokes lines, they are together called as the Raman lines. They are together called as the Raman lines. Okay. And also while comparing these two, which one is stronger, Stokes or anti-Stokes? Stokes lines are more stronger than anti-Stokes lines. Okay. Stokes lines are more stronger than anti-Stokes lines. Now let us represent these Stokes lines, Rayleigh lines and anti-Stokes lines. So this part, this is the Rayleigh lines. Rayleigh lines means nu I will be equal to nu S. This corresponds to Rayleigh lines. And lines with lower frequency, it is called as the Stokes line. So I am representing here Stokes lines. So this corresponds to Stokes lines. That means it will be coming to the left side of Rayleigh. Okay, Stokes lines. And the lines with higher frequency, they are anti-Stokes lines. Anti-Stokes. And these Stokes and anti-Stokes lines, they are together called as the Raman lines. Stokes and anti-Stokes are together called as Raman lines. So this phenomenon, it is called as Raman effect. This phenomenon is called as Raman effect. This is very important. This Stokes and anti-Stokes lines along with Rayleigh lines. This is an usually asked question for your university examinations. Okay. So these are the three lines present here. The first one Stokes lines, second one Rayleigh, and the third one, that is the anti-Stokes lines. Rayleigh lines means the incident radiation will be having the same frequency as that of the scattered radiation. Okay. Then the other two lines, that is the Stokes and anti-Stokes. Next we can move on to the quantum theory of the Raman effect. That is how this Raman effect is explained. Quantum theory of Raman effect. Quantum theory of Raman effect. So according to this quantum theory, this Raman effect means it is due to the exchange of energy between the incident photon. That is, the photon will be falling on a molecule, isn't it? Photon means light, isn't it? Light will be falling on molecule, and this light will be in the form of photons, isn't it? So the photon will be falling on the molecule, and also hence according to quantum theory, we can say that there is an exchange of energy between the incident photon. Suppose this is the incident photon. There is an exchange of energy between the incident photon and the scattering of molecule. Okay. So there is an energy exchange between the photon and the molecule. So for that we have to keep two assumptions. Say let the frequency of the incident photon, let it be I. Okay. That we have seen already. Frequency of the incident photon. frequency of the incident photon. Then let nu s be the frequency of the scattered photon. Nu s be the frequency of the scattered photon. Then suppose the energy of the incident photon. Energy, normally the formula is E is equal to h nu. Okay, so the energy of the incident photon, let it be h nu I. Okay, h nu I be the energy of the incident photon. And h nu s, let it be the energy of the scattered photon. H nu s be the energy of the scattered photon. Then let E, capital E, let it be the energy of the molecule before collision. Energy of the molecule before collision. And let E dash, let it be the energy of the molecule after collision. Energy of the molecule after collision. Okay, so these are some of the points you have to note down. That is h nu I, let it be the energy of the incident photon. H nu s, that of the scattered photon. E is the energy of the molecule before collision, and E dash is the energy of the molecule after collision. That means we considered all these cases, the energy of the photon as well as energy of the molecule. Okay, so normally while a photon falls on a molecule, what happens is that there will be collisions taking place, isn't it? That is, there will be a collision taking place between the collision of the photon with the molecule will be taking place. And also this collision, normally it will be of two types. This collision can be elastic or it can be inelastic. So two types of collisions may happen. It can be elastic or inelastic collision. Okay, then we have to go through these two cases, elastic collisions as well as inelastic collisions. Okay, so first one, elastic collision. Elastic collision. See here, in the case of elastic collision, the scattered photon will have the same energy as the incident photon. Okay, the scattered photon will have the same energy as the incident photon. That means energy of the incident photon, that is h nu I, isn't it? Energy of the incident photon, let it be h nu I, and the energy of the photon, energy of the scattered photon, let it be h nu s. Okay, so h nu I will be equal to h nu s. That means the collisions are perfectly elastic. Elastic means, what do you mean by the term elastic? That means there will be no gain or loss of energy. There will be no gain or loss of energy. Okay, so we can say that according to the law of conservation of energy, okay, according to the law of conservation of energy, we can apply the law of conservation of energy here. That means if the kinetic energy of the photon and the molecule, we have to consider the photon and the molecule. So if the kinetic energy of the photon and the molecule remains the same before and after collision, then we can say that according to this law of conservation of energy. So first of all, we have to write the kinetic energy of the photon and the molecule before collision. That means energy of the photon means it is h nu I, isn't it? Plus energy of the molecule before collision. What is the energy of the molecule before collision? It is E. So h nu I is plus E, that will be equal to, so this corresponds to the energy of the photon and the molecule before collision. Okay, it will be equal to the energy of the photon after collision, that is h nu s. H nu s is the energy of the scattered photon. Okay, so energy of the photon after collision or energy of the scattered photon plus energy of the molecule after collision. So what is energy of the molecule after collision? It is E dash. Okay, so according to law of conservation of energy, if elastic collision is happening, that means we can say that there will be no gain or loss of energy. That means there will be no changes in the energies of the photon as well as the molecule, isn't it? So this is the energy of the photon and this is the energy of the molecule before collision, and after collision this is the energy of the scattered photon and this is the energy of the molecule after collision. So both will be, the sum will be the same. Okay, so h nu I plus E is equal to h nu S plus E dash, and also already I had written what is h nu I, what is E, what is h nu S and what is E dash. Okay, so from this we can equate, that is when nu I is equal to nu S, when nu I is equal to nu S, then what happens, this will be equal, then what happens, E will be equal to E dash, isn't it? So the energy of the molecule before collision will be equal to energy of the molecule after collision. So what is this condition, nu I is equal to nu S? This is Rayleigh scattering. This condition is Rayleigh scattering. Okay, so this Rayleigh scattering is as a result of the elastic collision between the photon and the molecule. So this is the first case, elastic collision. So this is the explanation given by quantum theory of Raman effect for Rayleigh scattering. Next we can go through the second type of collision, that is the inelastic collision. Okay, so second one, inelastic collision. Inelastic collision. See, collisions are inelastic means there will be an exchange of energy. There will be an exchange of energy between the photon and the molecule, isn't it? There will be an exchange of energy between the photon and the molecule. So here we can say that the scattered photon will be having a higher energy or a lower energy than the incident radiation, isn't it? There will be an exchange of energy between the photon and the molecule. So there will be a change in energies of the photon before and after collision. So two conditions will be there. That is, when the first condition is when nu I is greater than nu S, when the frequency of the incident radiation is greater than the frequency of the scattered radiation, then we can write it as the energy of the molecule before collision will be less than the energy of the molecule after collision. Okay, so both are in the reverse order. And the second condition is that when the incident frequency of the incident radiation, when it is less than the frequency of the scattered radiation. These two conditions I had already written, isn't it? In terms of nu S, isn't it? I had written here in terms of nu S. The first term I had put here, it is nu S. Okay. So here also nu I less than nu S means we can write it as, what about the energy? Energy of the molecule before collision will be greater than the energy of the molecule after collision when nu I, the frequency of the incident radiation, is less than the frequency of the scattered radiation. So these two scattering or these two collisions corresponds to Raman scattering or Raman lines. Raman scattering. Okay. So here we have to give an explanation for this Raman scattering. Okay. Now again we can consider just as in the previous case. So in Raman scattering what happens is that when a photon collides with a molecule, here inelastic collisions are happening. So when a photon collides with a molecule, what happens is that the energy of the photon is either transferred to the molecule or it can be taken away from the molecule, isn't it? These two conditions can occur, isn't it? Energy of the photon, it can be transferred to the molecule or the energy can be taken from the molecule, isn't it? So two conditions can occur. And also when the scattered radiations, when they are having lesser frequency than that of the incident radiations, when nu I is less than nu S. So that is the first case, when the scattered radiations are having lesser frequency than that of the incident radiation. We can write the equation like this. That is energy of, I am writing the energy of the photon as well as the energy of the molecule. Okay. So h nu S. here nu s is greater than nu I, isn't it? So h nu s will be greater than h nu I, isn't it? So h nu s is equal to h nu I, that is the energy of the incident photon. Energy of the incident photon minus delta E. Delta E means the change in energy of the molecule before collision and after collision, that I am writing it as delta E. Okay. So then, so h nu s, see from this itself, nu s is greater than nu I. So we can write it like this. H nu s will be a bigger term, isn't it? So h nu s is equal to h nu I minus delta E. So h nu s is equal to h nu I minus delta E means it will be h into E is h nu, isn't it? So delta E means a change in the frequencies, isn't it? So h into, we can write it as nu I minus nu s. Okay, nu I minus nu s. That we can then we can cut the common terms, that is h we can cancel. So nu s is equal to nu I minus nu I minus nu s, isn't it? H got cancelled. So nu s is equal to nu I minus nu s. Then nu I minus nu s, that we can represent it as delta nu r. Nu I minus nu s, that is equal to delta nu r. Okay, nu I minus nu s is equal to delta nu r, and this delta nu r, it is called as the Raman frequency. Delta nu r, it is called as the Raman frequency. Okay, so here again we can substitute it here. Nu s is equal to nu I minus delta nu r. Okay, that means, see, from this itself it is clear that this nu s has got a higher value than nu I. That means nu s is equal to nu I minus delta nu r, or delta nu r. Delta nu r is equal to, what is delta nu r? Nu I minus nu s. Okay, that is delta, that is nu s is less than nu I. Okay, nu s is less than nu I. Hope you are clear with this derivation. So this is one case when nu s, when the scattered photon has got a lesser frequency than that of the incident photon, then the shift in Raman frequency will be, or delta nu r means it is the shift in Raman frequency, it will be equal to nu I minus nu s. Similarly, the second case we can write, that is when the photon interacts with a molecule, it acquires energy from the molecule. Okay, so here we have discussed two conditions. One is the photon will be giving energy to the molecule, and the second one, the photon will be taking energy from the molecule. Okay, so in the second case, when the photon acquires energy from the molecule, when the photon acquires energy from the molecule, so what happens is that when the photon acquires energy from the molecule, the scattered light, it will be having a higher frequency, isn't it? So nu s will be greater than nu I, isn't it? The scattered radiation will be having a greater frequency than the incident radiation. So the scattered radiation will be having a higher frequency, and scattered radiation, if it is having a higher frequency, it is called as the anti-Stokes lines. In the previous case, the scattered radiation is having a lower frequency than the incident one, so it is a Stokes lines. That is the explanation given by quantum theory. So here it is anti-Stokes lines. Then again we can substitute. So h nu s is greater than nu I, isn't it? H nu s greater than h nu I, that means h nu s is greater than h nu I. So h nu s will be equal to h nu I plus delta E. So the sum of these two gives h nu s, isn't it? And also h nu s will be a bigger one. H nu s is equal to h nu I plus delta E, or nu s is equal to nu I plus delta E divided by h. Okay, we can divide this h. That is equal to h nu I plus delta E divided by h. Okay, by taking this h to the right side. Then that is equal to h nu I plus, what is delta E? Delta E is h into nu I minus nu S. It will be always the same. That is the incident molecule. The molecule will be the energy of the molecule before collision and the energy of the molecule after collision. That is h into nu I minus nu S divided by h. Or that is equal to, nu S is equal to h got cancelled. That is equal to h nu I plus nu I minus nu S is delta nu R. Nu S is equal to nu I plus delta nu R. So what is delta nu R? Delta nu R is equal to nu S minus nu I. That means the scattered radiation has got a higher frequency than that of the incident radiation. Okay, sorry. Scattered radiation has got a higher frequency than that of the incident radiation. That is nu S greater than nu I. Okay, so here this is the explanation for the Stokes lines. Okay, and also this delta nu R, it is called as the shift in Raman frequency or Raman shift. Delta nu R is called as the Raman shift. Okay, so the difference between each Raman line and the incident line, it is called as the Raman frequency or Raman shift. The frequency difference between each Raman line and the incident line, it is called as, that is this is the Raman line. The difference between the Raman line and the incident line, nu S minus nu I, that difference that gives the delta nu R value, Raman shift. Okay, hope you are clear with this. So these are the two types coming under this inelastic collisions. Okay. So next is we can move on to the two different types of Raman spectra, that is the rotational Raman spectra and the vibrational Raman spectra. So here this you have already studied the rotational spectrum, isn't it? So this will be a combination of rotational spectra and Raman spectra. Okay, so the first case we can go through, that is the rotational Raman spectra. Rotational Raman spectra. So this rotational Raman spectra, it occurs due to, normally this Raman spectra, it is due to the molecular polarizability. Okay, Raman spectra arises due to molecular polarizability. That is the explanation given by classical theory. This classical theory you need not study. So Raman spectra, it is due to the molecular polarizability. So rotational Raman spectra means this arises due to this Raman spectra due to polarizability change caused by molecular rotation. While the molecule is rotating, what happens? There develops a molecular polarizability, and as a result, what happens? Rotational Raman spectra will be occurring. So this rotational Raman spectra, we can define it as Raman spectra due to the polarizability change caused by the molecular rotation. And also there is a selection rule for this rotational Raman spectra, and the selection rule is delta J is equal to 0 plus or minus 2. Okay, selection rule is delta J is equal to 0 plus or minus 2. That means the transitions can be from 0 to 2 or 1 to 3, isn't it? That means delta J is equal to plus 2, or in the reverse order from 3 to 1 or 2 to 0. And also you see here you have got delta J is equal to 0. Delta J is equal to 0, that corresponds to what scattering? Corresponds to Rayleigh scattering. Delta J is equal to 0 corresponds to Rayleigh scattering. And also already we have studied the energy of a rotational energy of a diatomic molecule, isn't it? In rotational spectroscopy, what is the rotational energy of a diatomic molecule? EJ is equal to B into J plus 1 centimeter inverse, isn't it? Rotational energy of a diatomic molecule, EJ is equal to B into J plus 1. And what is J? J is the rotational quantum number. I hope you are remembering all these. J is the rotational quantum number. Okay. Then we have to find out the energy difference between any two energy levels. Okay. Suppose we are representing the ground state as epsilon J double dash, and the higher energy level as epsilon J dash. Okay. So there is a difference of +2 between these two, isn't it? Or we can write it as, let the ground state, let it be J2 dash, let J2 dash be the ground state, and J dash let it be the excited state. Okay, so we can write it as J dash is equal to J2 dash plus 2, isn't it? There is a difference of +2. Okay, then we have to calculate the energy difference, or delta EJ. Delta EJ or delta epsilon J. Okay, in centimeter inverse. So delta epsilon J will be equal to epsilon J plus 2 minus epsilon J, or we can write it as the J plus 2 means it is the higher energy level, higher energy, that is J dash minus epsilon J2 dash, isn't it? This is the lower energy level and this is the higher energy level. Then you have to substitute for this energy, that is B into J plus 1, and you have to simplify it. Okay, then delta epsilon J, that is equal to, for EJ dash, what is EJ dash? B into J dash plus 1, isn't it? B into J dash plus 1 minus, then minus E J2 dash. Then you have to substitute for J as J2 dash, that is B into J2 dash plus 1. So minus B into J2 dash plus 1. Okay, then you have to substitute either for J dash or for J2 dash. Okay, so again here I am substituting it as J dash is equal to J2 dash plus 2. So for J dash I am substituting as J2 dash plus 2. Okay, this substitution. So B into J dash is equal to J2 dash plus 2 into again J dash. J dash is J2 dash plus 2 plus 1 minus B into J2 dash plus 1. That is equal to B, we can take common, B into J2 dash plus 2 into J2 dash plus 3 minus J2 dash into J2 dash plus 1. Okay, this is simple mathematics. You can do it by yourself. I am just writing for you. That is equal to B into J2 dash, that is J2 dash the whole square, plus J2 dash into 3 J2 dash plus 2 J2 dash, that is equal to 5 J2 dash plus 3 into 2, 6. Okay, minus here J2 dash into J2 dash, that is J2 dash the whole square plus J2 dash. Then that is equal to B into J2 dash the whole square plus 5 J2 dash plus 6, then minus J2 dash the whole square minus J2 dash. Then J2 dash the whole square got cancelled. Then 5 J2 dash minus J2 dash, that is equal to B into 5 J2 dash minus J2 dash, that is equal to 4 J2 dash plus 6. Okay, so the energy difference between the two lines, that is equal to delta EJ or delta epsilon J is equal to B into 4 J2 dash plus 6. Okay, or simply we can write it as B into 4 J plus 6. Okay, so this is the energy, and also then we can write for the energy expression for the Stokes and anti-Stokes lines from this equation. The energy expression for Stokes lines and anti-Stokes. For Stokes lines, see, already we have seen 3 types of lines. Rayleigh lines are also there, isn't it? So Stokes lines will be equal to, for the energy expression for Stokes lines will be it will be having a lower frequency, isn't it? For Stokes lines it will be equal to nu 0 minus B into 4 J2 dash plus 6. Since it is, the frequency is less than that of Rayleigh, isn't it? It will be coming in the left side of that. Already I had drawn the diagram, isn't it? See, the stocks lines will be coming to the left side of Rayleigh. That means it will be having a lower frequency. So it will be nu 0 minus B into 4J2 dash plus 6. And for anti-stocks, it will be equal to nu 0 plus B into 4J2 dash plus 6. That means this plus sign means it will be having a higher frequency than that of the Rayleigh line, and for stocks it will be having a lower frequency than that of the Rayleigh line. Okay, or the general expression we can write it as nu 0 plus or minus B into 4J2 dash plus 6. This is the general expression for stocks and anti-stocks lines. General expression for stocks and anti-stocks lines. Okay. Hope you are clear up to this. See, in your textbook, this derivation is not given. You just practice it, okay? So that you won't forget this particular formula. Delta Ej is equal to B into 4J2 dash plus 6. And also the energy expression, the general expression. This is very important for stocks and anti-stocks lines. Okay. Then we can substitute for the rotational quantum number J. So the energy expression, I am writing it once again, delta Ej, that is equal to B into 4J2 dash plus 6. And again, J can have value 0, 1, 2, 3, isn't it? For J is equal to 0, what about delta Ej? Delta Ej is equal to, here it becomes 0, so 6B. For J is equal to 1, delta Ej, simple substitution, you have to substitute J, you can put it like J or J2 dash, okay. So J2 dash is equal to 1, it will be equal to how much? 4 plus 6, that is equal to 10B. Then if J2 dash is equal to 2, then delta Ej, that is equal to 4 into 2, 8 plus 6, that is equal to 14B. Okay. So this will be the energy corresponding to each levels. Then you can draw, you have to draw this diagram. J is equal to 0, J or J2 dash, you can use either of these terms, okay. So J2 dash, not confusing you, I am putting it as J2 dash itself. J2 dash is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So see here the transitions will be delta J is equal to plus or minus 2 and 0, isn't it? So delta J is equal to 0 and plus or minus 2. So the first transition delta J is equal to 0, it corresponds to Rayleigh line. Okay. So I am putting it here. Rayleigh line, the frequency will be nu 0. Okay. So nu 0 corresponds to the Rayleigh frequency. Then the transition from 2 to, so first of all I will be writing the Stokes lines. Okay. So the transition from 0 to 2. 0 to 2, J dash is equal to 0 to J dash is equal to 2. So here one line will be occurring corresponding. So and what is the energy corresponding to J2 dash is equal to 0? It will be 6B, isn't it? So this will be equal to 6B. Then the next transition from 1 to 3. From 1 to 3. Correspondingly one spectral line will be occurring and it will be at 10B, isn't it? J2 dash is equal to 1. It will be equal to 10B. Then the next one, the transition from 2 to 4. From 2 to 4, that means it will be equal to 14B. Correspondingly, this is 14B. Similarly, it goes on. So this will be corresponding to the Stokes lines. Then the next one, from 2 to 0, a line will be occurring at 6B. Then from 3 to 1, another line at 10B. Then another line from 4 to 2 at 14B. Okay, so it will be going on like that. So here this is the Rayleigh line. Nu 0 corresponds to the Rayleigh line, and these corresponds to the Stokes lines, that is nu 0 minus this particular values, and this corresponds to the anti-Stokes lines, that is higher frequency side. This is the lower frequency side, and this is the Rayleigh lines. Okay, hope you are clear with this explanation. And also already you have seen what is B, isn't it? There is a spacing between the lines, isn't it? See what is the line spacing? Line spacing means these are the two spectral lines. So what is the line spacing between these two? It will be equal to 4B, isn't it? 10B minus 6B. Line spacing will be equal to 10B minus 6B. That is the difference between the adjacent two lines, or the difference between two adjacent lines, 14B minus 10B or 10B minus 6B. Here also 10B minus 6B or 14B minus 10B. So the line spacing of each spectral lines will be equal to 4B, isn't it? Then you have studied the formula for calculating B. What is B? B is equal to H divided by 8 pi square IC. I hope you are remembering this formula also. B is equal to, B is the rotational constant, and B is equal B is equal to H divided by 8 pi square IC. Then H is the Planck's constant, I is the moment of inertia, and C is the velocity of light. Okay. And also normally this Raman frequencies will be will be occurring at a frequencies of about 200 to 5000 centimeter inverse. And also this corresponds to the IR spectrum. Corresponds to the IR spectrum of the spectrum. Here Raman spectrum will be giving the same information about a molecule as given by the IR spectra. Okay, but without having an IR spectrum, we can take the spectrum also. Okay, so next is the vibrational Raman spectra. Vibrational Raman spectra. Vibrational Raman spectra. See here, just as in the previous definition about the rotational Raman spectrum, here vibrational Raman spectra means it is due to the polarizability change. Raman spectra will be arises as a result of the polarizability change. Here also vibrational Raman spectra means it is due to the polarizability change caused by the vibration of a molecule. So as a result of vibration, a polarizability change occurs, and as a result of this, vibrational Raman spectra occurs. Okay, and also coming to the selection rule. Coming to the selection rules, we can write it as delta V is equal to 0, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, etc. Just as in the vibrational spectrum, isn't it? In the vibrational spectrum, we have seen there are harmonic vibrations as well as anharmonic vibrations, and also here and also you have studied the vibrational energy for an anharmonic oscillator, isn't it? Vibrational energy of an anharmonic oscillator. I hope you are remembering all these. Vibrational energy of an anharmonic oscillator, it is given by EV is equal to V plus half into omega bar E minus V plus half the whole square into omega bar E XC. This much centimeter inverse. That is the vibrational energy of an anharmonic oscillator. Harmonic and anharmonic oscillations I had explained you, and this vibrational energy of an anharmonic oscillator is given by V plus half into omega bar E minus V plus half the whole square into omega bar E XC. V is the vibrational quantum number, omega bar E is the fundamental vibrational frequency, and XC is the anharmonicity constant. Okay, so omega bar E is the equilibrium vibrational frequency, Omega bar E is the equilibrium vibrational frequency and Xc is the anharmonicity constant. Anharmonicity An. Xc is the anharmonicity constant. And also then you have studied some of the transitions in the case of vibrational spectra. That is, for transitions we have to apply selection rule. That is, for transitions from V is equal to 0 to V is equal to 1, that gives the fundamental transition, isn't it? And the energy corresponding to the fundamental transition, that is delta E fundamental. This all you have studied. Omega bar, that is equal to omega bar E into 1 minus 2 Xc centimeter inverse. I had already discussed all these in vibrational spectra. Then V is equal, for transition from 0 to 1, the energy will be equal to this much. Then for transitions from V is equal to 0 to V is equal to 2, that means an enharmonicity occurs, and this is called as the overtone, isn't it? So delta E corresponding to the first overtone. Delta E corresponding to the first overtone, that will be equal to 2 omega bar E into 1 minus 3 Xc centimeter inverse. And then the transition corresponding to V is equal to 0 to V is equal to 3, delta E second overtone. It is called as the second overtone, and it will be equal to 3 omega bar E into 1 minus 4 Xc centimeter inverse. Okay. And also, as you know, these fundamental transitions are more intense and more stronger than the first overtone and the second overtone. So coming along this way, what happens? The intensity of the lines will be, intensity of the spectral lines will be decreasing, isn't it? So the fundamental lines will be having a greater intensity than the, or they are much stronger than the first overtone, second overtone, etc. Here also Raman lines are further weak, and also therefore overtones we can neglect. That means these two transitions we can neglect. And also therefore the energy will be equal to, we can neglect this two overtones. So therefore the energy will be equal to omega bar E into 1 minus 2 Xc centimeter inverse. Okay, so the energy corresponding to this transitions, the vibrational transition will be delta E is equal to omega bar E into 1 minus 2 Xc. That is, we are considering only the fundamental transitions. The overtones can be neglected, and since it is a Raman spectrum, then Stokes lines will be coming at nu 0 minus omega bar E into 1 minus 2 Xc. This is for Stokes lines. And for anti-Stokes, it will be nu 0 plus omega bar E into 1 minus 2 Xc for anti-Stokes. Okay, so Stokes lines are more intense than anti-Stokes lines. So this is the general expression for Stokes and anti-Stokes, that is nu 0 plus or minus omega bar E into 1 minus 2 Xc. Okay, hope you are clear up to this. Next, you have to go through one topic, that is the mutual exclusion principle. Mutual exclusion principle or rule of mutual exclusion. This is very easy and at the same time very important. Mutual exclusion principle or rule of mutual exclusion. This is very simple one, that is for here this mutual exclusion principle, it is applying to molecules having center of symmetry. Okay, this mutual exclusion principle, it can be applied to molecules having center of symmetry. That is the first point to be noted. Can be applied to molecules having center of symmetry. And also in the case of molecules having center of symmetry, IR active vibrations are Raman inactive. IR active vibrations are Raman inactive, and vice versa. Vice versa means Raman active vibrations will be IR inactive. Raman active vibrations will be IR inactive. Okay, IR active vibrations are Raman inactive, and Raman active vibrations will be IR inactive. Okay, and also this can be applied only to molecules having center of symmetry. Okay, so molecules having center of symmetry means, for example, H2 molecule. See, this can be, if we are rotating by along this particular axis, we will be having a similar geometry or similar appearance, isn't it? If this molecule, suppose this is H1 and H2, if I am rotating this molecule through this angle or through this axis, what happens while rotating through 180 degree, what happens in the second step, what happens, H1 will be coming here and H2 will be coming here, isn't it? Again, if it is rotating, H1 will be coming here and H2 will be coming here. So that means it will be having, the molecule will be having a center of symmetry. The image will be appearing similar, isn't it? So H2 molecule is an example for having center of symmetry. Then carbon dioxide molecule, then ethylene molecule, etc. C2H2, ethylene molecule, etc. They are having center of symmetry. Ethylene, it is like this. Structure will be like this. CH2, double bond CH2. This is ethylene molecule. These molecules are having center of symmetry, and this, so therefore mutual exclusion principle can be applied to all these molecules. Okay. Then we can give a simple explanation. See, you have seen the IR stretching vibrations of carbon dioxide molecule, isn't it? So this is IR active vibration and this is Raman active vibration. So I am writing the case of example for CO2 molecule. Okay. CO2 molecule, discarding the double bonds. Okay, so this vibrational transitions means, or the stretching vibrations, there will be, in the case of vibrational spectroscopy, there will be symmetric stretching vibrations, then asymmetric stretching vibrations and bending vibrations, isn't it? All these we have discussed already. So there will be symmetric stretching vibrations, then asymmetric stretching vibrations, and also bending vibrations. Symmetric stretching, asymmetric stretching and bending vibrations. Okay, so here in the case of CO2 molecule, see, CO2 molecule means symmetric stretching means the CO bond, both the CO bond will be stretched in both the directions symmetrically, isn't it? That means it will be like this, CO, then CO. So there will not be any change in dipole moment. That means that particular stretching vibration will be IR inactive, isn't it? It is IR inactive. This symmetric stretching vibration will be IR inactive. Okay, so IR inactive vibration of the CO2 molecule, it will be Raman active. Okay, so that means we can say that both are complementary. So if it is an IR inactive vibration, then we can take the Raman spectra and we can see that it is a Raman active, or we will be having a spectral line at the while taking this Raman spectroscopy. Okay, then the next is the asymmetric stretching vibration. Asymmetric stretching vibration means one of the bond is elongated and the other one will be in the normal position. Okay, so this particular bond will be elongated, C single bond O. That means this is an asymmetric stretching, and this asymmetric stretching gives a change in dipole moment, and as a result that particular vibration will be IR active, isn't it? So it is IR active. Asymmetric stretching vibration of CO2 molecule is IR active. So what about this Raman? It will be Raman inactive. Okay. Then coming to the bending vibration. Bending vibrations, two types are there, in plane bending and out of plane bending, and also both of these vibrations will be developing some dipole moment change, isn't it? So bending vibrations are IR active. So bending vibrations will be Raman inactive. Okay. So this is how we can explain the rule of mutual exclusion principle. It is very, very important. You should not skip this particular topic. Okay, so this is the case of mutual exclusion and exclusion principle, and you have to study this also. Okay, then one more example it is given, that is the trans dichloroethylene. Trans dichloroethylene. Trans dichloroethylene. Cis and trans dichloro. So first of all I will be drawing the trans dichloroethylene, that is C single bond C, then H, then Cl, then here it is Cl, here it is H. This is trans dichloroethylene. Okay, and what about cis dichloroethylene? Cis will be C single bond C, I'm not putting the double bond for the time being. So C single bond C, then here it comes H, here it comes Cl, H, Cl. Okay, so this is cis and this is trans. So in the case of trans dichloroethylene, suppose I am rotating along this particular axis, okay, through 180 degrees. So what happens? Let it be Cl1 and this is Cl2. And this is H1 and this is H2. Okay, suppose I am rotating through this particular axis. If we are having a center of if the molecule is having a center of symmetry, the molecule will be having the same structure, isn't it, while we are rotating, or the same appearance, not the structure. It will be having the same appearance while rotating through this axis. Okay, so I am rotating this molecule through 180 degree. So what happens is that while rotating, it will be having this type of appearance. See, Cl1, I am rotating through 180 degree. What happens? It will come here. Okay, Cl1 will be coming here. Then what happens to Cl2? Cl2 180 degree means it will be coming to this position. Then what about H1? H1 will be coming to H2's position and H2 will be coming to H1's position. Okay, so this is the appearance while I am rotating that particular molecule through 180 degree. While I am rotating the molecule, okay. Is it 180 or 120? Okay, we will be having the same appearance, so that this particular molecule has got a center of symmetry. But in the case of cis dichloroethylene, what happens is that while we are rotating this particular molecule, say suppose this is H1 and H2, this is Cl1 and Cl2. Suppose I am rotating this molecule, what happens? This H1 will be coming to Cl2's position and the Cl2 will be coming to H1's position and the Cl1 coming to H2's position and H2 will be coming to Cl1's position. Okay, so this is the rotation, or this is the appearance. See, there is no center of symmetry for this particular molecule. Okay, so this for trans dichloroethylene, that particular molecule has got a center of symmetry, and therefore we can apply this rule of mutual exclusion principle for this trans dichloroethylene. Okay, the rule of mutual exclusion principle can be applied to trans dichloro, but it cannot be applied for cis dichloroethylene. Okay. Next is some of the applications of Raman spectra. Applications of Raman spectra. And here the first point is that Raman spectra gives an information about the shape and structure of molecules. Shape and structure of molecules. And also when Raman spectrum and IR spectrum, when they are studied together, Raman and IR in combination, okay, Raman and IR when studied together for a particular molecule, we can say whether the molecule is linear or non-linear, whether the molecule is linear or non-linear, or symmetrical or unsymmetrical. Symmetrical or unsymmetrical, okay. And also by using this Raman spectrum, we can determine the structure of organic molecules as well. Structure of organic molecules. Structure of organic compounds. Okay. Then the next is coming to the advantages and disadvantages of Raman spectra. See, it is marked in the textbook. I'm not writing it once again. So advantages, the setup for Raman spectroscopy is simple and less expensive. Then IR spectra is obtained only for gases, but Raman spectra, it can be obtained for gases, then solutions and for solids. That is the second important advantage. Then the third one, IR spectroscopy is possible when the gas molecules are polar. But Raman spectrum can be taken for non-polar substances also. Okay, IR is for polar molecules, but Raman can be taken for non-polar molecules also. Then the next one, in IR spectroscopy, water cannot be used as a solvent, but in Raman, water can be used as a solvent. Okay. Then the next point, the scattered radiations in Raman spectrum have only slightly different frequencies than the exciting radiations, and the two can be observed with the same experimental setup. See, in the case of Raman spectroscopy, the scattered radiations will be having very slight variations between the incident radiation or the exciting radiation, and so we can observe these two radiations with the same setup. Then the last one, Raman spectra can be studied in the visible or near visible range, which is most convenient to study photographically. Visible or near visible region means we can take the photographs, isn't it? There is no need of other instruments. We can take the photographs itself. That is another advantage of Raman spectroscopy. Then some of the disadvantages. This Raman spectroscopy, the method is very accurate but less sensitive. But IR spectroscopy method is very accurate and sensitive. Okay, Raman is accurate but less sensitive, but IR is accurate as well as sensitive. Then here in the case of Raman spectrum, concentrated solutions are essential, but IR spectrum, dilute solutions will be okay. Okay, concentrated solution for Raman spectrum and dilute solutions for IR spectrum. Then the last one. From the study of Raman spectrum, for the study, the substance should be pure, colorless and clean. Okay, but for IR, the substance or the organic compound to be studied or the compound to be studied, it need not be pure and it can be colored. Okay, but for Raman, it should be colorless and clean and should be pure. Purity over 99% or 90%, the purity should be there for studying of Raman spectrum. Okay, so these are some of the disadvantages of Raman spectroscopy. So these you have to study the advantages, disadvantages as well as the applications of Raman spectroscopy. So in our next session we can go through this NMR spectroscopy. Okay, so thank you and have a nice day.